Hey, I remember you. Okay, so this is Doug, Oracle DBA. Been doing it for a while. Thought I'd share. So, if you're tuning in from the last episode, the installation just completed. It took a little over 30 minutes on my system for the installation to run. So, in total, about 1 hour so far. Not counting the extra time it took to create those storage disks. Maybe an hour and 15, 20 minutes total with writing the virtual disks. But after it finishes post-installation tasks, it gives us successfully installed and ready. Go ahead and reboot. And you can't really see it right here, but this button is actually the reboot button. So we're going to go ahead and knock that one time, and away we go. So we can see it doing some reading and writing on the hard drive. And here we come. And of course this is going to be the first run X Windows session. And in this is where we have to accept a license agreement. So again, exclamation point and a triangle means you got to do it. So but during the installation, you'll see these commercials scrolling through. You know, they try and give you something to read. And one of the things it says is Oracle Linux is free, always free. So if you want support, that might cost money, but free is free. And we can look at our network, and it says we have our IP address that we expected. We're connected. We're on. We've got our host name. So we're going to go ahead and done and finish configuration. And it's going to kill that X server and actually start up a new one. It doesn't quite do a complete reboot. It just initializes X Windows, and here we are. So now we're going to go ahead and log in. And the first login takes a little bit. It needs to build the directories for the Genome desktops, etc. And then it's going to give us a couple of run first programs that it always throws at you. So we have our desktop. And welcome. English, next. English, next. Okay. Next, skip. And let's start using Oracle Linux. And the next thing that comes up is some videos about how to use the workspaces and switching tasks, changing wallpaper, common tasks, some common tasks, get online, launch applications, etc. So we're going to go ahead and close that. Okay, so we can verify that we have good network right now by firing up Firefox. Again, the first time you fire it, it needs to build some folders and directories and files, so be a little bit patient, but it will eventually come up and have things to show you. For instance, there we are. We made it to linux.oracle.com, and of course we can go to a different site to ensure that it wasn't out of some sort of cache, and of course we get commercials about Larry's animation. ERP, the cloud, and see it open world, right? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close this, but you know, I'm looking at this web browser and the screen, and you know, it's really pretty cramped. So I'm going to go ahead and close these tabs. I'm going to applications and settings. So in settings, I'm going to scroll on down to devices, and here I have my resolution. Well, that is completely unacceptable. So, you know, I really like these 16 by 10 resolutions better. 1440. Let me try a 1280. Let's try one of those. And let's say keep changes because it looks okay. I need to move it so it's back in our capture area. So that looks a little bit easier for you guys to see too. But maybe we'll get just a little bit bigger. Let's see. So that's 1280. By 960. That's a little bit too high for me. What about this 1440 by 900? Let's try him. And yeah, I'm thinking I like that. Now, let me adjust it up just a little bit. And I can't quite get it all in the capture, but I can get most of it, so. So, okay, you know, that's cool. So now, let's go ahead and close this and open up a terminal window. Okay. Now, we're only going to do a couple of things here. One, we're going to disable the firewall. We're also going to disable SELINUX. And we're going to add the OEL7 developer to the repository configuration so we can get access to the VirtualBox guest tools. So, first thing I'm going to do here is switch user to root. Ooh. Let's try again. So it's not liking my root password. Ah, there we go. Kind of funny, I actually had caps lock on when I typed it in and didn't realize it, so it was a little backwards. So I'm going to actually fix that right now. And let's verify. Okay, so now we're golden. So again, first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit that repository. Eventually I'll type it correctly. And I'm going to change this guy to disable or enabled, excuse me, and save it. And to ensure Vbox, to ensure it was enabled correctly, it's going to go ahead. There it is, accessing Oracle OEL7 developer, and there we go. So those are the ones we're going to want. So the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and turn off SELINUX. Okay, now that won't take effect until I actually reboot, which is fine. And the final thing we're going to do here is we're going to actually stop the firewall. And if I'm not mistaken, service firewall D stop. Alright, that's the wrong command. Which one is it? Let me take a quick peek. Well, that's why I typoed it. Firewall. No, firewall. There we go. And then next is system CTL disable. And for all of you keyboard junkies, control insert copies, shift insert pastes. There we go. So now the firewall is off. We've updated the repository and we've disabled SELINUX so it won't come back up on the first boot. So now we're actually going to connect in with PuTTY on the load, and it looks like it's going to choke for a second. Okay, so OEL76 Doug, yep, that's me, and 162. And let me verify. I like to have lots of scroll back on my windows. So we're going to open it, and then we're going to accept the PuTTY key. There it is. Ooh, potential. That's okay. And that's not right. That is. And then, and here I am. So, a couple of things we can take a look at while we're in this. Look at the top and say, yep, we've got 4 CPUs like expected, 8 gig of memory like expected, 16 gig of swap like expected. Okay, let's go ahead and df-h. Here's our file systems, and yes, we have a 30 gig root, well, almost 120 meg, 1020 meg of boot, and that's pretty much our storage. So at this point, I'm actually just going to go ahead and shut it down. But again, should be root to do that. And we're going to halt it. Interestingly, these guys shut down pretty darn quickly. No, I think I should have typed now and it would have shut down quickly. Power off at 8:22:23. 43. Oh, so it's giving me like a minute. I don't need that. Let's just say now. There we go. Now we'll see how fast it actually goes down. In the terminal. Bang, it's done. Okay, one of the reasons why I wanted to do that right away is I wanted to create a snapshot. And because when if you need to, you can roll back to a snapshot and save yourself having to call an entire do-over. So to get to snapshots, took me a minute to find it. They hit it in here. You gotta hit the little hamburger next to the guest name on the side, and then go to snapshots. And right now we only have the current state and no snapshot. So we're going to take a snapshot, and we're going to call this baseline. And we can put in a comment that says install completed, firewall disabled, SELINUX disabled. And what is, oh, OEL7 developer added to Yum. So those are, besides the screen resolution change, those are pretty much the only things we did. And there we go. So we're all set there. Now we can actually fire this guy back up and look at a couple more things, maybe install those guest additions, and we'll go from there. So we go back to details, and then we go back to start normal. And here we go. So we're about to get a login screen. Got a mouse, there's a login screen. Okay, now I could actually log in, but I gotta be honest, I'm more of a fan of putty and the green screen, so I would rather be here. So I'm just gonna come up into the corner. I could duplicate, but I'm just gonna say restart the session. And here we are. And now I'm root. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is install the guest additions. Now, I had a lot of issue getting guest additions to install, and I'm not even sure they installed correctly. However, I did find a blog on Oracle's website, actually two of them I needed to reference, by Oracle employees. One is one of the Linux geniuses. I suppose they both are, that describe the process. And one of those processes, I'll pull up the link, and I'll clear this, include this link in the description. But it basically is right here, and it shows, oh, that's not the right link. Close that one. Let's try again. Okay, so it's this one. So this is by Simon Coder, and says, hey, you can get these things from the repositories. And that's why we added the OEL7 developer. And when we did that and said yum search Vbox, we found it. However, there's a UEK4 and a UEK5. So you have to install these both RPMs. One is the guest tools, and the other is the UEK. So the Kmod for it. So let's yum search Vbox again. Okay, so here you can see we have a Kmod for UEK5, a Kmod for UEK6, and then we have the tools, okay, and the guest utilities. Now, one of the things I happen to realize is, how do I know? Is this a UEK4 kernel or a UEK5 kernel? Well, a brief search led me to another post. So when we do a uname-a and look at the actual version of the kernel here, there's another post that helps clarify that. And he is here. So this post by Simon Coder describes specifically the Oracle release and whether or not the UEK4 or the UEK5 kernel is supported. So we installed Oracle 7 update 6, 7.6, and this is indeed our kernel version, right? Pull that next to each other. So yep, we're 4.14, 35, 18, 3.3, and it says yes, 4 is supported, 3 is supported, but 5 is the default. So, and I'm assuming that it installed the default, as that's what that means. So, going back to our session to install these tools, yum install, and we'll do the UEK5 and the tools. Now the transaction check does take a couple 30 seconds sometimes, but we just let it run, and it's going to ask us if we want to download. We say yes. Okay, there we go. There's the first one, there's the second. Dependency check. Is this okay? Yes. Okay, and then it says, are you ready? I'm like, yep. So there we go, running transaction check. And the kernel mod obviously takes a little bit longer than the actual tools, even though it's much smaller. Now as this finishes, let's go back to his blog post about these guest additions. And very clearly it says after you do the install, after a reboot. So we're going to go ahead and give this a quick reboot and test it out. So let's see if he's almost done. Almost there. And honestly, I'm not sure how important all these tools are. The VMs seem to run fine for me. I suppose if you want to access the shared folders on your local drive, but to me it's not necessary, because with the PuTTY suite I can just PSCP copy any files I need right into the guest VM from the command line. I'm pretty good at that. I'm not a big fan of WinSCP or those graphical tools, because you have a tendency to drag and drop things in the wrong place. So we'll let it go ahead and fire back up. And there we go. Come on, all the way. Well, we should be able to log back in now anyway, so. There we go. So we are logged back in, and going back to that post of happiness. So an ls mod, and let's grep for Vbox, and then mod it. Pretty funny. Alt tab never gives them back to me in the order I put them away. So ls mod grep-i Vbox Oh, and now we've got all kinds of video helpers and Vbox Guest. Pretty nice. So let's mod info Vbox Guest, and we get the details, version 5.2.20. Let's compare it to his 5.2.04. Little different. Little different. But I think we're okay. So I wonder if we can actually get that. I wonder if we can get that C drive temp to mount. Oh, that's the wrong one. Mount. C drive _ temp / media. Nope. So it looks like we still need to auto mount that through the guest. So let's see if we can get that to. I haven't really messed with these shared folders too much, but so let's see. Adds new folder, auto mount, edit shared folder. Now let's say auto mount. Okay, and let's see what happens if we try that again. No, it still doesn't. So let's go in graphically and see if we can see anything. Also, machine settings, take snapshot, view, input. I would have thought it would be in the devices. I got optical devices. Audio, network settings, USB, so shared folders. So, and there is this GuestAdditions CD, but whenever I try and configure GuestAdditions that way, I was unsuccessful. Oh, 5.2.20, we recommend updating to latest version by choosing install option from the devices. See? Now will it even work? Let's see. Devices. Let's try it. Let's finish that. Let's see if it breaks anything. See, if you wish to replace it, please do not continue with this installation now, but remove the current version first. And I'm actually not going to, because I haven't been successful with getting it to run off of just this install. So with that, I'm going to actually shut it down, and I can, I suppose, do it graphically. Power off, and that closed. Minimize that. We're back here and we're in a powered off state. Now we're going to go ahead into snapshots, and guess what we're going to do? It shows that it changed from the previous. So we're going to take a new snapshot, and we're going to call it post GuestAdditions. GuestAdditions installed via OEL7 developer. And so with that said, we'll go ahead and end this video. Thanks for entertaining. Now going forward, the next video will include tools, configuration and preparation, for instance, how to configure for the Oracle Enterprise Linux 7.6 for a VNC connection if you want to do your installation through a VNC desktop, how to configure Xming if you want to do it through a X Windows session from a remote system, and the steps that are going to be required. And we're also going to start looking at prepping the system for the Oracle Enterprise Linux, or the database 18 grid infrastructure to configure a single instance ASM. So those will be the next couple coming up. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again.